Hello everybody, welcome to Algebra 2 Trig Regents questions you must be able to do part 2. Before we get started, if you go over to Schlansky.com and you scroll down to Algebra 2 Trigonometry Review Materials, you have the key to both parts 1 and parts 2. They're in the red here among other review materials, so all the problems are worked out for you here, but I'm going to go over just a few of them so you can hear my voice and go along with it, and it's not just pen to paper. But you have the full answers there. So let's not waste any time. Let's get started, because I don't know how much time I have to get through this. And I'm going to try and go over one of each type. So whenever you see nature of the roots, real, imaginary, rational, irrational, equal, unequal, you do plus or minus radical, b squared minus 4ac. Use the discriminant. Before I can do that, I have to get everything to one side. A equals, B equals, C equals 3, 9, 27. So I do plus or minus radical. Make sure you put b in parentheses. If you don't, you're going to get it wrong half of the time. So I don't want that to happen. I believe that is negative 243. That is imaginary. Let's talk about the four circumstances. If it's a negative, it's imaginary. If it is a perfect square, it's real, rational, unequal. If it's a non-perfect square, it's real, irrational, unequal. And if it's zero, real, rational, equal. And again, if it's negative whatever, it's imaginary. So that's what you need to do numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving to 5, your spark is sum of the roots, product of the roots. You got those Russian gardeners. Their names are Sumba with an accent mark and Produtka, which hides the formulas. Sum equals negative b over a, and product equals c over a. So you have to kind of go through each choice and see which one holds true. I believe the answer is choice 3. Because for choice 3, get this thing out of here, negative b is positive 3 over a is 4. So that one checks out. And the product is c over a, which is negative 8 over 4, which is negative 6. Make sure you know your formulas. Sumba, Produka helps. Students still mess up. Which one is the negative? Sumba. Sumba's got the accent mark. So that's what we need for numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Your spark. Center of a circle. Equation. I need this in center radius form. In order to do that, I need to complete the square. I got to do it twice. I got to do it for x, and I got to do it for y. So I'm going to write x squared minus 16x plus something, y squared plus 6y plus something equals, bring a number to the other side, negative 53 plus something plus something. Got a little cramped on space there. To determine what goes inside the square, it's b over 2 squared. So it's negative 16 over 2 squared, and it's 6 over 2 squared. Negative 8 over 2 squared is 64. Negative 16 over 2 is negative 8 squared is 64. 6 over 2 is 3 squared is 9. So I have 64 and 9. So my blue I now factor x minus 8, x minus 8. It's going to always be the same factor written twice because it's a perfect square trinomial. My y's, I have y plus 3, y plus 3. That gives me 20 on my right-hand side when I combine all those. Rewrite it as a binomial squared, x minus 8 squared, y plus 3 squared. Now I'm in center radius form. Once I'm in center radius form, to find the center, I negate what's in the parentheses. So minus 8 becomes positive 8, plus 3 becomes negative 3. That's my center. My radius is the square root of the right-hand side, which is radical 20. This particular question is asking for the center. That's it. Long process, very straightforward process. It's always the same. That's what you need to do for 10, for 11, for 12, for 13. That's it. Just a heads up on number 12, because there's only x squared here, you're going to only complete the square once. And again, you can refer to the key if you have any questions on that. Now, to solve equations using completing the square, the first 4 steps are the same. You need to put it in ax squared plus bx equals c form. Now I complete the square by adding b over 2 squared to both sides. That's negative 6 over 2 squared is 9. Factor it. Combine the right-hand side. Rewrite it as a binomial squared. Now that's completing the square. Now, to solve the equation, take the square root of both sides. Squaring the radical cancel, I get x minus 3 equals, when you take the square root, it's plus or minus radical 18. Solve for x, plus 3, x equals 3 plus or minus radical 18. Final step, if necessary, is to reduce the radical, which I can do in this example. 3 rad 2. So my final answer is x equals 3 plus or minus 3 rad 2. Completing the square is an alternate method to the quadratic formula. I think it's easier when a is 1 and b is even. If a is not 1 and b is not even, I would choose the new quadratic formula. But it could ask you to solve using completing the square. So if they do, you have to be able to do this. Same procedure for A, B, C, and D. Next type of question. This is an Algebra 1 question. From comes first. So it's 1/2 x squared plus 2x plus 1/4 minus, get this little guy out of here. That worked out great. 1/4 x squared minus 2x plus 1/2. So from comes first. And then keep change. Keep the first polynomial. Change subtraction to addition, and change everything in the second polynomial. So negative 1/4 x squared plus 2x minus 1/2. Now, what makes algebra 2 would be a fractions. Just let the calculator deal with the fractions. 1/2 plus negative 1/4. Go to your calculator, type in alpha y equals enter, 1/2 plus negative alpha y equals enter, 1/4 is 1/4. 2 plus 2, I hope you don't do that. And then 1/4 plus negative 1/2, 1/4 plus negative 1/2 is negative 1/4. So my answer is 1/4 x squared plus 4x minus 1. Again, it's an Algebra 1 question. The only thing that makes it different is that you have fractions. Use the calculator for the fractions. 2 things you need to to know from comes first, and once you have that, keep change. So that's going to be the procedure for 15, for 16, for 17, and for 18. 19, to convert from radians to degrees. If I'm converting to degrees, 180 goes on top, pi goes on bottom. 4 times 180 over pi. Go to my calculator. 4 times 180 over pi. Now, it wants my answer to the nearest minute. So to convert to the nearest minute, I hit second angle or second apse, option 4, DMS, enter. Make sure you include the degrees. It's 229 degrees. Now, I have 10 minutes. I have 59.225 seconds. I don't write the seconds down, but I look at them to determine how I'm going to round. If it's 30 seconds or more, I round a minute up. If it's less than 30 seconds, I keep the minutes as they are. This is more than 30 seconds, so it becomes 11 minutes. So your answer is 229 degrees, 11 minutes. That's how you do A, B, C, D, E, and F. Now 20, I want you to convert to radians. If I'm converting to radians, pi goes on top. Now, sometimes it wants the answer in terms of pi, sometimes it wants it rounded. Because it wants it to the nearest hundredth, I'm going to type pi in. I'm going to type in 30 times pi over 180. To the nearest hundredth, that's 0.52. That's it. Not difficult, as long as you know how to do it. Same thing for 21. Same thing for 22. And finally 23. A little typo here, get a 10 out of here. You need to recognize this picture or recognize the word central angle, arc length, radius. This little blue guy is always in my way. Let's get him down there. This is a sore problem. S is the arc length. Theta is the central angle in radians. It has to be in radians. If it's not converted to radians, R is S. Once you have it set up, it's just algebra. You can either divide by pi over 6, or you can multiply by the LCD. Either way will get you to the correct answer. It doesn't say to round anything, so keep it in terms of pi. X equals 30 over 5. Same thing for 24. 25 we're going to go over because it's slightly different. Again, I see length of an arc, radius, central angle, so I know it's going to be sore. Arc length is what I'm trying to find. Now theta is 45 degrees. It must be radians, so I have to multiply it by pi over 180, and I can just leave it like that for now. Radius is 5. X is isolated. All I have to do is just type this thing in. Because it does not say to round, I'm not going to type pi in. So I'm going to type in 45 times 5 over 180. Let's do it this way. 45 over 180 times 5. I have 5 over 4, so my answer is 5 over 4. So that applies for 25, 26, 27, 28, and that brings us to 29. To determine which quadrant an angle's in, all students take calculus. cosine is negative, tangent is negative. That means that sine must be positive. It must be in quadrant 2. Sine is positive, tangent is positive. The only quadrant where they're both positive is quadrant 1. The only twist for something like D, cotan is not on my ASTC. So whenever I see a reciprocal function, I need to cross it out and replace it with its reciprocal. When I take the reciprocal of something, the sign does not change. So basically what D is saying is that cosine is positive, tangent is negative, so that's got to be quadrant 4. You need to know your reciprocal quotient identities. You need to know that S goes with C. You need to know that C goes with S. You need to know that tan is sine over cos. And you need to know that cotan starts with cos. So you replace everything with its identity. You want everything to be sine and cosine. So it's 1 over sine theta. It's sine theta over cosine theta. If it's cosine or sine, you just put it over 1. Then you cancel stuff out. Sines cancel, cosines cancel. Everything happens to cancel here. So you're left with 1. Same thing for B, as well as 31 and 32 and 33. Just be aware that you might have to divide by a fraction, in which case you keep change flipped. Let's skip 34. Let's go with 35. For trig graphs, AMPSINFREQXSHIFT. That's what the equation of any trig graph is. You got to start at the midline. Here the midline is at 0. So the amplitude is the distance from the midline to the max and to the min. It's 2 in this case. Is this sine or cosine? Because it starts below the midline, it's negative cosine. If it starts at the midline, it's sine. If it starts at the max, it's positive cosine. Freq is how many full waves between 0 and 2 pi. Between 0 and 2 pi, I see 1, 2 full waves. Frequency is 2. Shift is the midline. There is no shift. It's 0. So it's y equals. Let's put it underneath this actually. Y equals amp 2 sine negative cosine freq x shift. There's no shift.
I think Ms. Nielsen or anyone who's doing the testing, contact the main office. Testing for new students, contact the main office.
It wasn't that fantastic. What else I got for you here? Let's just do, no, I'm not doing another one with you. You got it. You got this. Refer to the key if you need to. Period. You need to know 2 things about period. You need to know the period is wavelength. And you also need to know the formula for period is 2 pi over the frequency. Amp sine freq x shift. The frequency is what's in front of the x, which is 2. Period equals 2 pi over 2. Period is pi. That's it for period. Very simple as long as you know that formula. What else we got here? Same thing for all of those. Same thing for that. Same thing for that. Go into 47. New type of problem. When it wants to know how many types, how many triangles or what types of triangles could be drawn, your first step is law of sines. And then this is going to be your T1, T2. A, B, C. A is 9, B is 10, angle B is 70. So I have 10 over sine 70 equals 9 over sine A. Cross multiply and solve. 9 sine 70 equals 10 10. I have sine A equals, would have been really smart for me to have my answer sheet. It's in the car with reading this morning. Didn't want to get wet. 9 sine 70 over 10 is 0.8457, whatever. Inverse sine of both sides. The reference angle of A is 58 degrees. When you do inverse, you're finding the reference angle. So sine is positive in quadrants 1 and 2, makes that 58. 180 minus 58 is 122. Those are my two possible angles for angle A. Now, if I have that, I go to my T1 and T2. I know that 70 has to be an angle. My second angle can either be 58 or it could be 122. So now that I have two angles of a triangle, I add up and subtract 180. That's 128. That's 180 minus 128 is 52. Checks out. That could be a triangle. This one can't be a triangle because it already adds to more than 180. So there's one possible triangle. What type of triangle is this? Well, because all the angles are acute, it's an acute triangle. You're going to see this, I can almost guarantee you're going to see this question. Make sure you know how to do it. It's not that difficult, a couple steps to it, but that's the same for everything through 50. 51, this is a 6-point question. It's a really nice 6-point question. It's a 6-point question where I wish I had my answer key in front of me so I didn't have to work everything out right now. But what else? 250, 312, 490. Find to the nearest degree the smallest angle formed by the trenches. Well, the smallest angle must be opposite the smallest side. So being how 250 is the smallest side, this must be the smallest angle. I have three sides. I have one angle. So when I have three sides and one angle, I use log cosine. It's on the reference sheet, but you should have practiced it so many times that you should have it memorized. You must put the side opposite the angle on the left-hand side. So that 250 must go on the left-hand side. The other two are interchangeable. 312 squared plus 490 squared minus 2, 312, 490, cosine, running out of space, x. This is a longer log cosine problem when finding the angle. I have to do each piece individually. I'm doing 250 squared, which is 62,500. I'm doing 312 squared plus 490 squared, which is 337,444. I'm doing 2 times 312 times 490, which is 305,760 cosine x. Now, in the equation, I have to isolate. I cannot combine these. Do not try to combine these. I can't do it. Do not combine those. I have to isolate. So to isolate, I add or subtract first. I'm going to subtract 337,444. I'm going to use my calculator for that. Can you hear me pressing the buttons on the little calculator? If not, cool. I mean, they're so cool. Not that important. Negative 274,944 equals negative 305,760 cosine x. Not isolated yet. Divide by negative 305,760. Divide by negative 305,760. I'm getting a nasty decimal. I should get a nasty decimal because it is cosine x equals 0.8992. Inverse cosine. X equals inverse cosine 26. Well, not 26. Well, what am I around to? Nearest degree, 26. So I'm going to put that into the picture. Now that I have that, it wants me to find the area. So the formula for area is K equals 1/2 AB sine C. I need two sides at an included angle. I have that. So it's k equals 1/2, 312, 490, sine is 26. Because in the first part of the problem it told me a round, I'm going to use 26. If it didn't ask me to do the first part of the problem, I would put 25 point ... whatever is in the calculator. Put this into the calc. 1/2, 312, 490, sine 26 is 3. Oh, did I freeze? I froze. I am back in action. There's no stopping me. 33509.09046 to the nearest square foot. That's a unit, yo. No decimal places. Make sure you know how to find the area of the triangle. This is a gift of a 6-point question. If we get to the 6-point question in the exam, you better get those 6 points, or else, well, that would be very unfortunate. You can take a look at 54. 54 is slightly different. We have a parcel of land in the shape of an isosceles triangle. The base has a length of 673. The two equal legs give an angle of 43. Find the area. Well, to find the area, I need two sides and the included angle. I don't have that right now. I got to use a little bit of geometry to start. I can find the base angles by doing 43 plus x equals 180. That's 43 plus 2x equals 180 minus 43 minus 43. 2x equals 137 divided by 2. X is 68.5. So I'm going to put 68.5, 68.5. Now do I have two sides of an included angle? No. I need another side. So let's pick a side to find. Let's find that one. Because I have two sides and three angles, I can use law of sines. X is going to go over sine 68.5. 673 is going to go over sine of 43. Cross multiply and solve. X sine 43 equals 673 sine of 68.5. Divide by sine of 43. X equals, go to my calculator. Can you believe kids show up to school without this calculator for this course? Pretty stupid. Pretty not smart. I got 918.141538. So I'm going to put that in my picture, 19.14. Don't round it until the very end of the problem. I now have two sides and an included angle, so I can do k equals 1/2, 918.14, 673, sine 68.5. I put that into the calculator. Again, I'm not typing in 918.14, I'm just using the second answer feature in my calculator, which may or may not be pink. Yes, I have a pink calculator. I got space here, right here. I got 287,456.8132. It wants me to round to the nearest square foot. That's 287,457. Get these questions right. Same thing there. Forces, another gift of a 6-point question. Whenever you see forces, parallelogram with a diagonal. Your forces are the sides. The angle between them, in this case, is 65. This 65 doesn't do anything for me. But if I find a supplement of that, I know the uncut angle has to be 115. Fill in all your missing pieces. The opposite sides are congruent. The opposite angles are congruent. And now it's asking for the magnitude of the resultant force. You need to know the resultant force is the diagonal. So, look at the triangle. How many sides are involved? How many angles are involved? I have 3 sides, 1 angle. The 65 doesn't count. So, when I have 3 sides and 1 angle, I do my law of cosines. Whatever side is opposite the angle must be on the left-hand side. X squared equals 40 squared plus 28 squared minus 2, 40, 28, cosine of 115. This is a shorter law of cosine problem. I just type that whole thing in. 40 squared plus 28 squared minus 2, 40, 28, cosine 115. 330.66496. Square root of both sides. Second radical, second answer, 57. Nearest pound, 0.711 to the top. That's 58 nearest pound. Now, here's where a lot of students get messed up. Next question. Find the measure of the angle formed between the resultant and the smaller force. The diagonal is the resultant. The smaller force is 28. This is the angle between the resultant and the smaller force. I have 3 sides. I have 2 angles. You have a choice of law of sines or law of cosines. For finding an angle, it's easier to do law of cosines. So, 40 is opposite the x, so it's 40 over sine x. The other pair I have is 58 over sine of 115. Cross multiply and solve. 58 sine x equals 40 sine 115. Divide by 58. Divide by 58. Sine x equals, I'm going to type that in, alpha y equals enter, 40 sine 115 over 58 is 0.625. Inverse sine is to the nearest degree going to be 39 degrees. 2 answers, 39, 58, 6-point question. Again, I can't control what's going to be in the Regents exam, but if a forces problem or a law or an area of a triangle problem is on there, you better make sure you're prepared to get all 6 points. Same thing for that, same thing for that. Moving on to 60, a little bit lighter here. How many different 3-member teams can be formed for 6 students? Whenever I am choosing a certain number from a certain number, that's going to either be XCR or NCR. Permutations have positions. Combinations are committees. There's no specific positions, they're teams, they're committees, so in this case I'm going to use C. There's 6 students, so it's 6C3. I go to my calculator, I type in 6 math, PRB, NCR, 3, and that's it, 20. Let's do a quick example with our positions. And am I frozen? Yeah, I'm frozen. You know what? Perfect opportunity to stop because I got to go. Night school wants to come in. I have to go tutor somebody. So we'll pick up on this some other time, hopefully. Hope you enjoyed it. And no, maybe we didn't. Whatever. Part 1 over.